Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Wednesday night. Lovely to have you guys here for another episode of the show. DeAndre Hopkins officially taking a visit to the Tennessee Titans. We're going to get into that today. Certainly a lot to discuss with everything that's going on with this particular situation. So it's his first official free agent visit since being released from the Arizona Cardinals. And Mike Vrabel was kind enough to confirm that he was one of several players that they would be having in early next week. So we'll talk about DeAndre Hopkins, the viability of that. We'll talk about where else the roster needs lie beyond the wide receiver position. And then because it's a Wednesday, we'll do the rising and falling segment, whose stock rose and whose stock fell this week in sports. Before we get going, need you guys to share this show around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Wherever you are spending your time with us, we'd be happy to have you. If you're on Twitter, please retweet the show. Bottom right-hand corner of your screen is where you do it. If you are on Facebook Live, like Senior Jones or Jay Streets, you can like the video. You can share now to public. That's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. YouTube or Twitch, like Karen Davis or Nuclear XN on YouTube. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you've done both and tell a friend to do the same. If you've done so already, we would be grateful for you doing so. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be the talk of the NFL, and certainly the Tennessee Titans as his first free agent visit is going to be fascinating to discuss, and we're going to get into it throughout the course of tonight's show. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Superbook Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the great folks at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com and get your dream address without the stress. The intel edge you need to succeed can be found at GaryAshton.com. TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMav Fitness for the best workout possible. I'll be there at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Tuesdays and Thursdays is when I go for the best workout in Middle Tennessee. You can get your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident at TrueMavFitness.com. Of course, Superbook Sports is where you go to wager on the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup, and all of your favorite major sports. You can match your first bet up to $250 with the promo code ATOZ in the Superbook Sports app. So, DeAndre Hopkins is officially taking a visit to the Tennessee Titans on Sunday. This was first reported by Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network, and you'll hear from Tom here in just a second. Mike Vrabel was asked about this situation today at practice and had no choice but to confirm the reporting of Pelissero, which was to say, yeah, we're bringing D-Hop in, but we're also bringing a bunch of other dudes in, and this is what we do with any player, not just the ones named DeAndre Hopkins.
Well, the first thing is we want players that want to be here. I think we want people that want to be here, and then we'll work through anything else. And so, we brought in a bunch of different players. DeAndre will be somebody that we'll bring in early next week, at the end of this week, and go through the same visit that we go through with everybody, and then start the process. I'm past the recruiting. I did that in college. I think that, again, would really just want people that want to be here. And then if that works out, then you go on to the next step. So this will be pretty much it until we either sign or don't sign the next player.
So you didn't hear the question in between, but Teron Davenport of ESPN asked Vrabel, what's that visit look like, right? Is it a recruiting opportunity? And Mike's response was, yeah, I'm not doing the recruiting thing in the NFL. I did that in college. That's not really what we do here. Either you want to be here or you don't. And once we establish whether you want to be here or don't want to be here, then we can decide how much money that's going or what kind of the financial situation is going to look like. Now, I got a text from a league source today. As soon as the Hopkins news or the visit of the Hopkins news broke, and the text read, "Money matters more to Nuke than anything." And that's all it said. That was the context that we needed from a league source that I very much trust. Money matters more to Nuke than anything. So we will get into these things together with your Two Rivers Ford take here on the Primetime Show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. The question that we will ask you guys this evening is this. Well, I would ask you the question, but I don't seem to have it in my email, and that's not Bert's fault. I just now noticed it. The question that I would ask you is this: of the Hopkins news, what was your first reaction to the news that DeAndre Hopkins is visiting the Tennessee Titans? Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Right after I remind you that your Two Rivers Ford take is made possible by the great folks at Two Rivers Ford. Go to Two Rivers Ford for quality American-made Ford vehicles, award-winning customer service, and the kind of car buying experience that is fast, easy, and fun. Nobody has done it better in Middle Tennessee than Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. Your Two Rivers Ford take. What was your initial reaction to the news that DeAndre Hopkins would be paying the Tennessee Titans a visit for his first free agent visit? Stephen King says, oh no. Eric Alonzo says, Tim Kelly reunion. William Anderson says he was happy. Amar says, future Pro Bowl Titan. So he's projecting before a deal is even done. I saw somebody earlier say they can't let Hopkins leave on Sunday. Oh, it was Omar who says they can't let him leave without a contract. Well, of course they can, and in fact, they're probably going to, because it's not a matter of whether DeAndre Hopkins, whether they can make a good enough offer for him to stay out the gate without overextending themselves. There's no point in bidding against yourself, right? DeAndre Hopkins is a move that would be well worth their time, but it's not a situation where you can look at this and say, yeah, but you can just go ahead and overextend yourself for no other reason than you need a wide receiver. I am for the Tennessee Titans signing DeAndre Hopkins. I think there is a good deal to be done there. It is also completely fine to let him walk out of this building on Sunday without a contract in hand, because he's not signing either way until training camp. There will be zero emphasis or zero reason for him to rush through this. And he wants to hear what the best offer on the market is for him, because one team may have something on the table. He likes Vrabel. He likes Kelly, but it doesn't mean necessarily that he's just going to be sold right out of the gate. And that was the context that Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network was good enough to provide. And I will let you hear a piece of that analysis from Rap Sheet on the NFL Network.
DeAndre Hopkins is expected to make his first free agent visit early next week and a fly on Sunday, then visit the Tennessee Titans. That is going to be on Monday. This Mike Vrabel confirming earlier today, the Tom Pelissero report that Hopkins is set to make his first visit. And you're right, there has been a lot of interest from contenders, and certainly some teams that have some money to spend. But if you're looking at the profile of the Tennessee Titans, they fit exactly what DeAndre Hopkins is looking for. They got a quarterback who can play. They have a need. They have some money, and they do seem to be a team looking for one final piece for maybe that playoff push. The interesting thing here is the timing. I wouldn't be surprised at all if DeAndre Hopkins, even with a really positive visit to the Tennessee Titans, doesn't sign until maybe even the start of training camp. Rarely do veterans want to go through mandatory minicamp. Veterans especially like to maybe even wait a couple days into training camp just to make sure they get as much rest for their bodies as possible. May end up being the situation for DeAndre Hopkins, or he couldn't end up taking another visit. Either way, plenty of very, very good teams interested in the former Cardinal star receiver.
So he's going to have a market, right? There's no point in rushing this with DeAndre Hopkins, because DeAndre Hopkins isn't going to rush one way or the other. A to Z Sports Prime Time is presented by the great folks at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com and get your dream address without the stress. The Intel edge you need to succeed can be found at GaryAshton.com. Nobody's got better information on the best properties the way that the Ashton team does. So trust the team that your favorite teams trust. Go to GaryAshton.com for the Intel edge you need to succeed. So with that being said, my first reaction was, well, that's expected, right? They should bring him in for a visit. There's no reason not to. It doesn't hurt anything. And if they decide that a contract is worth doing for DeAndre Hopkins at 31 years old, then they can find a way to make the money work. They don't have to release a player. I know a lot of people are concerned that there might be a Kevin Byard release that comes associated with the idea of acquiring DeAndre Hopkins. And they don't have to do that. They could do that, but there's nothing that's forcing their hand in doing that necessarily. Where the easiest place for them to create that room for DeAndre Hopkins would come in the restructuring of Harold Landry's contract. Now, Harold Landry is on that 5-year deal that he signed ahead of last year. And of course, the situation for Harold, unfortunate that his ACL tear happened at the time that he did. It was a 5-year, $87.5 million contract, 52.5 guaranteed in total. He is set to count against, and this is the really tough part about Harold's injury when it happened. Thank God for his sake and for his family's sake that he got paid before the ACL tear, because of course that would have been terrible to have happen to him. The problem with Harold is that the way that the contract was structured, your cost-effective year of Harold Landry is already over. Harold Landry was set to count against your cap last year for $5.05 million. It was the way that the deal was structured to make sure that they still had some financial flexibility while being able to re-sign one of Harold is their best pass rusher, I would say, without question, at this stage of the game. Now, that cap hit goes from $5.05 million in 2022 to this year 18.8, right? So the cap hit is brutal. It's a more than a $13 million jump in that situation against your cap. And certainly with the way that it is currently constructed, $15 million in base salary and a $3.8 million signing bonus, Harold's money is the easiest to mess with at this point. Again, it's not taking money from Harold Landry. It is something that gives them it's the best option, right? You don't have to extend Derrick Henry. In fact, at this point, I would say that's not advisable. You don't have to extend Ryan Tannehill. At this point, I would say that is also not advisable. You don't have to release Kevin Byard. That would not be in the best interest of your football team, despite him counting against the cap for $19 million. The easiest way to keep it all in place and to give yourself the most financial flexibility after this year is to restructure Harold Landry and make room for DeAndre Hopkins. Now, of course, the money matters more than anything. The money matters more than anything. The answer to all of your questions will always be money, right? Whether it's Live Golf and the PGA Tour, whether it's the NFL and a potential European division, or DeAndre Hopkins potentially signing with the Titans, the answer to all of your questions is cold, hard cash, kids. And that is what is going to be at the forefront for DeAndre Hopkins. Now, Tom Pelissero provided a little extra context on the Hopkins situation as he gets ready to make his first free agent visit to Tennessee on Sunday.
That's right, Andrew. We now know where DeAndre Hopkins is going to take his first free agent visit. He is scheduled to fly to Nashville on Sunday for a visit with the Tennessee Titans. There's some familiarity here. Hopkins and Coach Mike Vrabel worked together in Houston for 4 years when Vrabel was coaching on the defensive side. And then Vrabel, of course, became the Titans head coach and had to play against Hopkins for a couple seasons while they were in the same division, and Hopkins was in all-pro form. We know the last couple of years have not gone the way that the Cardinals, who released Hopkins last month, or Hopkins himself would have wanted it to go. He dealt with a lot of injuries. He just turned 31 years old. It was a difficult contract for Arizona to trade just because Hopkins was not willing to rework it to the extent he would have needed to for another team to take on that contract. Arizona ended up releasing him. Now Hopkins gets to choose his spot. They are not the only team, the Titans are not, that are in talks with DeAndre Hopkins. But the fact this is the first visit, Andrew, shows there is some mutual interest here.
Mutual interest is all it means. Whether they decide that the situation is worth their time, whether DeAndre Hopkins decides that the situation is worth his time, remains to be seen. But mutual interest at this point before his visit on Sunday. Let's move on and let's talk about the other biggest need on the roster on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Let me know what the second biggest need on the Titans roster is beyond a wide receiver. Certainly, there is no question that the wide receiver room could use the upgrade more than anything. Where is your situation most interesting or the greatest need on the roster beyond the wide receivers? We'll talk about it together right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage, except I've already told you that. So I'm going to tell you that it's made possible by TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. TrueMath Fitness is where you go for the best version of you. I so enjoy the workouts at TrueMav. I enjoy their classes. I also enjoy their personal training. I've started going to personal training twice a week at TrueMav. They helped me drop the initial 54 that I was able to lose. Now they're helping me get in the best possible shape to improve upon the work that we've been doing over the last year with TrueMav. TrueMavFitness.com is where you go for any of their great membership options, whether you just want to be a member and have access to their open gym, take part in those personal training sessions, or sign up for any of their great group classes. TrueMavFitness.com, your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. So we know that Hopkins would satisfy a huge need. Maybe you think that wide receiver is 1A and 1B as far as the wide receiver situation is concerned. Ryan Field says, inside linebacker, don't trust Monty Rice. I don't know why you would have any reason to distrust Monty Rice or trust Monty Rice. You've not seen him play, so I think that's there's zero reason for you to feel that way. That makes no sense whatsoever, but maybe you're entitled to your opinion. There's no basis for your opinion whatsoever at this point. Pass rush depth, says Noji Pierre on YouTube. For Karen Davis, it's kicker. Now, kicker is not a bad one to submit, right? The kicking situation for the Titans is up in the air. Now, Trey Wolf and Caleb Shudak are the two players competing at this point. And, it doesn't seem like right now they're interested in bringing in a veteran to, further add competition. It seems like they're satisfied with the level of competition that they're getting right now. Nuclear XN says DB1. Well, DB1 is Kevin Byard. There's no disputing. DB2 is probably Amani Hooker. DB3 is probably Roger McCreary. And then DB4, I think, is up for debate. If you're talking corner, though, you do not have, last year your best corner was Roger McCreary. You could theoretically say that the competition for the best corner on the roster for CB1 is very much up in the air. Now, Christian Fulton is still not practicing, and Mike Vrabel would not answer a question today about Christian Fulton and a potential injury. I'm gonna. This is not a video that we had prepared, but I'm gonna see if I can't send it over to my to the system here so I can upload it for you guys really quickly, because the guy who's been getting the snaps in the stead of Christian Fulton has been Chris Jackson, right? Now, many of you have forgotten about Chris Jackson. Chris Jackson had a season-ending injury last year that cost him a lot of time. He is somebody who is a 7th-round pick out of Marshall, has done very, very well to last on this roster. He's certainly going to be the best depth option that they have. He's a more reliable option than Caleb Farley. Trey Avery would be it would be him and Trey Avery who would be in competition for the depth corner spot at this point. And I caught up with Chris Jackson for about, 2 minutes, let's say, after practice today. As soon as that's uploaded, I'll play you that video, because I do think that while I don't necessarily think they need to add another player to the cornerback room, I do think that the most uncertainty on the roster beyond the wide receivers is with that secondary, and specifically with the corners. Now, you wouldn't think that would be the case for as much draft compensation as they've dumped into the corner position. But this was the conversation that I had with Chris Jackson after practice today.
After coming off injury last year, getting back out there with the guys, a new team, but some of the same guys, it's been fun so far.
Now for you, what did kind of, going through the injury and having to deal with the adversity that presented, what did that kind of teach you?
It just kind of taught me, more perseverance, not really ever having a major injury like this, and, talking to some of the older guys who've been through injuries, and, how to just stay resilient, how to stay positive through, not being able to play ball. That's one of the biggest things, just learning from some of the older guys, staying positive.
How was the rehab process for you on that?
It's been really good, working with the trainers, working with the doctors, outside. Ty, Sal, Matt, they all doing a great job. The rehab has been going really good, so it's been great.
For you guys as a group, you're kind of the old head almost, and it doesn't feel like that should be, right? But it's kind of the way that things have gone. What's kind of the dynamic right now in the position?
The dynamic in our room right now is, the biggest word I can think of is compete, competition. Like you said, me being one of the older guys on the team, but really only being in year 4, it's kind of new for a lot of teams, to have so many young players be the older guys. But with that, it just breeds competition, from the rookies all the way up to the oldest guy in the room, SMB. So, we just competing every single day.
The coaching staff obviously knows you. You know the coaching staff. What are you trying to show them when you're getting maybe some extended opportunities out here today?
Just, trying to show my worth, trying to show, value to the team, trying to carve out a role, coming off an injury, coming off last year, just trying to get better, personally and, get better with the team as well.
Appreciate it. So that's Chris Jackson after practice today, catching up with the former Titans 7th-round pick, who is probably their best depth option on the roster right now. He's been playing for Christian Fulton, who has not been available. Christian Fulton was on the bike again today, so not available. Apparently dealing with another injury at this stage. Mike Vrabel would not say one way or the other, but if he's not out there right now, the only players who aren't out there right now are either rehabbing an injury or dealing with a current injury, including Elijah Molden, who, again, that's concerning because you don't have shit for safety depth at this point. My kid just said the reporter asking the question has a weird voice. Well, fortunately, B. French, the fact that he noticed my voice at all means that the voice can continue to pay my mortgage, my car payment, my all my utility bills, and pay for everything else in my life. So the fact that he noticed my voice is all I need, weird or not. Yes. So looking at the Eric Alonso says, hopefully Caleb Farley can contribute this season. Sure, but I'm operating under the assumption that Caleb Farley doesn't have a role on this defense with the guys that they've brought in. I don't think Sean Murphy-Bunting being signed is any kind of endorsement of Caleb Farley, right? I mean, Caleb Farley is in a situation where he's probably the last player on the depth chart. I wouldn't put him above Trey Avery or Chris Jackson. I mean, I'm sure there's some tryout players you might put him above, but at this stage, Caleb Farley is a non-factor as a former first-round pick. Brian Badillo says, why are McCreary and SMB CB1 and 2 and Molden in the nickel? Well, none of that is true. None of what you've just said is accurate. Well, actually, that's not. Here's what I'll say. McCreary so get rid of CB1 and CB2. It's not Nicole, it's the nickel. McCreary is your nickel corner. Murphy Bunting and Chris Jackson have been the two starting outside corners. And so that is where they are right now with the secondary. Murphy Bunting has been starting on the outside, but again, this is just mandatory minicamp and OTAs. This is no live tackling. There's no pads. Perhaps this changes, but right now that's the defense that they've been rolling out. So I think that at this stage of the game, your secondary has plenty to prove. It does have a lot of talented pieces in place, but it's kind of like Caleb Farley. There's just only so much time that you can spend on things like potential, right? Potential doesn't really matter. We got big problems if Chris Jackson is starting, says Amar. Well, I mean, who else are you going to put out there? And by the way, Chris Jackson, don't hate on Chris Jackson when all he's done is be available for you. Now, I know he had a season-ending injury last year, but so did a lot of guys. Chris Jackson, you should be damn grateful that you have depth corners as good as Chris Jackson, because the one thing you could always have better depth at pass rush and at corner, and Chris Jackson is competent depth at this stage. And certainly not costing you a bunch of money. You're not having to go out and spend money on guys at the corner position. You've been able to get a cost-effective deal in Sean Murphy-Bunting. And if you can find a guy like Chris Jackson who can start for you, it's more than you're doing with a first-round pick in Caleb Farley. So why is that Chris Jackson's fault? I just think that's nonsensical. He's done plenty to deserve a place on this roster. Now, whether that's the case this year remains to be seen. But obviously, he'll be in competition, and we'll see if he is better or good enough as far as competition is concerned to make that happen. Chris Jackson can't stay on the field, says Amar. Literally, that was the only year that he's had any kind of a substantial injury last year, and this is year 4 for him. So that's, of course, completely and wholly inaccurate outside of last season. Well done by you. Let's move on. Rising and falling candidates. Whose stock rose, whose stock fell this week in sports. We'll talk about it together right after I tell you that the Primetime Show is made possible by the great people at Superbook Sports. Download the Superbook app today. They'll match your first bet up to $250 with the promo code ATOZ. That's A2Z in the Superbook Sports app. They will get you in on all the action. NBA Finals going on right now. Game 3 underway. Series tied 1-1, whether you're betting hockey, the basketball, or baseball at this time of year. Superbook Sports is your place to wager this season. Terms and conditions, superbook.com. Gambling problem, call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. So, looking at a situation for whose stock rose, whose stock fell this week in sports, I would say stock up for the Miami Heat. Right now, they are currently, I believe that game is at halftime. I've been kind of paying attention to it in the corner of my eye while we sit here in the office doing the show. It is halftime, 53-48, the lead for Denver. Series tied 1-1. Miami winning game 2. They're in Miami tonight. It would be huge if Miami was able to win this first game at home. Certainly, the stock down for the PGA Tour, and more specifically, Jay Monahan is the commissioner for the PGA Tour. We've been talking about it for the past 2 days straight, basically, on the radio show, what's going on in the world of golf. Been a shit show, and the PGA Tour, and more specifically, the leadership of the PGA Tour, looks incredibly weak and, frankly, fraudulent. I would say serpentine in their not serpentine. Serpentine's the wrong word, but just I would say that Jay Monahan is the snake. I would say that it is an accurate representation of what's happened here. Certainly, the golfers feel betrayed, and I can't believe that man is going to keep his job. But this apparently is going to be in the best interest of the business of the PGA, and as long as the business is good, nothing else seems to matter, right? As long as people are making money, it doesn't matter where you're taking the money from. Corey D. Jackson correctly says, stock up. Miami, Inter Miami, the Miami MLS franchise. They announced today that Lionel Messi is officially joining MLS. He can play as early as the season, which is going to be batshit crazy. I think that he's the biggest star in sport, like anywhere internationally. Lionel Messi is the biggest star in any sport ever, not ever, but in any sport right now. The most famous modern athlete, the most accomplished modern athlete at this stage. And at 36 years old, he's taken his talents to Inter Miami FC. But I would say that stock down more than anything. I don't know how much people are following the Zion Williamson story, but I'm going to end the show today with a Stephen A. Smith rant on what's happening with Zion Williamson and, shall we say, an entanglement with a woman that he's getting ready to have a child with. Congratulations to Zion, but also an adult film star that is not thrilled with the idea that he's not having a child with her.
Apparently, a girl by the name of Mariah Mills is all over the internet and calling him out by name, attaching his name to stuff, and giving vivid details of their encounters with one another. She's a porn star. Now, y'all gonna sit up there and say, damn, where's Stephen A. going with this? Where am I going? Are you ready for this? I'm kind of pissed. Kind of pissed off. Because all I can think about is, man, you only played 29 games last year. And you missed the season before that. And I've been wondering what the hell is taking you so long to get healthy. Well, now I know. I mean, forget all this stuff. That's his personal business. She put it out there. It's a damn shame. My advice to you youngins out there, you can't always police what your partner's going to do. What's going to be publicized, what's not going to be publicized. You got to cancel them immediately if they're willing to betray your trust like that. I know I would. Second order of business is that chances are if you mess with a porn star, it's going to be public. I don't call Jimmy Garoppolo porn star Jimmy for nothing. The man went to a damn restaurant in Melrose, right there at Beverly Hills, with the porn star. Clearly you wanted everybody to know you porn star Jimmy. Porn star Zion doesn't exactly ring the same way as porn star Jimmy. But that porn star didn't talk about Garoppolo the way this one is talking about Zion. And I'm not going to repeat what she said. It's not appropriate, even for YouTube. I'm not doing it. I'm just not. Because I don't care. You're young, you're not married, you can do what you want to do with whomever you choose. It's your business. It's a damn shame she's putting your stuff out like that. You need to cancel her. But there's a bigger issue here. I mean, she's a porn star. One would surmise she's kind of an expert at whatever it is she does. And, I've been waiting for the leg injury to cure, to heal, Zion. I've been waiting for a while. He's been waiting for a while. New Orleans has been waiting for a while. I mean, we've been waiting, man. And I'm not going to get into all of this. I'm just going to say, yo, man, when you going to play? Forget her. Forget all that. That's your personal business. When you going to play, Zion? In 29 games. You missed the game before. Your first season, you only played 21 games. Your second season, you missed 21 games. You played 24 games your first season, missed 21 your second season, didn't play your third season, and only played 29 out of 82 games your fourth season. I mean, damn, bro. No wonder you ain't healthy.